You're listening to Speaking Sidemount, the podcast where we talk all things sidemount diving, from equipment, skills, techniques, and sidemount diving expeditions to interviews with some of the world's top sidemount divers. Whether you're new to sidemount, been sidemount diving for years, or just want to know more, this is the place for all things sidemount. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Let's get wet. Hey, welcome back to Speaking Sidemount. I'm Steve Davis. This episode is sponsored by X-Deep. My sincere thanks to Pieter and the team at X-Deep for their support, which makes all of what you're about to listen to possible. Now, one of the common characteristics of all of my guests on Speaking Sidemount is their expression of the pure joy of diving and the adventure that it brings. We talk about Sidemount, of course, and about equipment and training and so on, but meeting new people, fellow divers, and learning about new places and different environments are my most cherished aspects of my interviews on this podcast. Now, a few months ago, I was mesmerized by images of divers in bright yellow X-Deep Sidemount systems diving the caves of Greece. Not known as one of the traditional cave diving regions of the world, I dug a little deeper and uncovered Project Infinite Liquid, where a group of divers, including Matteo Verana, my guest from episode 27, and led by Stratis, were using Sidemount to further explore and document the caves of Greece. Now, as Stratis is a professional fashion photographer and videographer, I knew this would be something special. But when I discovered that Infinite Liquid was to be a feature film that will premiere at Tech Dive USA in Orlando, April 2020, I had to know more. In this episode, Stratis and I discuss how he got into diving and cave diving, his philosophy in teaching cave diving, how he combines his passions of photography, videography, and diving, and then we discuss the dangers of cameras and how you can increase your safety when taking video or photographs underwater. We rant for a while about why we love Sidemount before we talk about Stratis' business, Into the Wild Adventures, and the Infinite Liquid project. All of this and much, much more in this episode of Speaking Sidemount. Stratis, welcome to Speaking Sidemount.
Thank you very much for having me and for the opportunity to speak to you and to the people. I really love the show.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. And it's great to finally connect. I've seen you online a fair bit. So look, just to get started, tell us a bit about how you got into diving.
I got into diving like many other people did, probably on a vacation. I was in Hawaii. I was on a cruise and I was bored. What to do? Oh, there is this scuba diving thing, and then you do it. And like some other people, you do it once, you do it twice, and then you never stop doing it because it becomes what you like to do forever. So it started very recreationally with the full meaning of the word. You know, it was really just nice to be underwater. And then it never stopped because then, due to my work, I am a filmmaker. I travel the world. So wherever I could go, I would actually make sure always that I will have some time to actually dive. That was mountain lakes, that was European lakes, etc. At that point, obviously only recreationally. Then at some point, the two passions, you know, my filmmaking and photography and diving kind of merged, and this is where I am now.
Isn't it funny? I had the same experience when I was working in software. I was traveling the world, and every single time I went somewhere interesting, I made sure I took my dive gear with me. So you'd see me sort of trucking along in a suit with a dive bag behind me, checking into hotels. It was hilarious, but it was always a great opportunity to finish each trip and make sure that I wove in some diving somewhere interesting around the world. It's a great opportunity to do that, isn't it?
It is, and it's nice because this is also how you sometimes meet some of the most interesting people around some of these places that you travel to. And you meet them already with the idea that you have something in common. So there's no more ice-breaking necessity. It was wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I've got exactly that experience. I dived in Rarotonga in the Cook Islands many years ago. I think it was 2007, something like that. And I met one time fantastic British guy who's now living in California and Los Angeles. And as I fly through on my way to Florida in a couple of weeks, I'm going to stay with him. And so it'll be the first time I've seen him. Through the wonders of Facebook, we've kind of stayed in touch. Probably go and have a dinner and a beer and catch up. Great to be able to do that, isn't it? I really enjoy that. Now, I know that you caught the cave diving bug really, really early on in your dive career as well. Tell us a bit about what lights you up about cave diving.
It's unexplainable because me as a young kid, I was both claustrophobic and generally somebody who was really avoiding dangerous situations. I was never running fast on a bike, or I was not that kind of kid. Without being shy, I was just, I was liking my life and I wanted it to be longer than other people maybe.
Sure.
So cave diving really came as a surprise because for me, it started by seeing material that other people would film in caves, etc. And for me, it was so extraordinary to see this new world, which is so different. Because I believe that cave diving is not similar to a diving experience that you have in the sea. For many reasons, for the clarity of the water, for the new space that you see, for the fact that it looks more like if you're in outer space in many, many cases, especially in large caves that we have here.
Yeah.
When we film, there is moments that I feel like you see an alien moment. And never being able to be an astronaut, this was the closest I could do. Plus, there is a funny part of that story, which is in caves, there's no sharks. And for me, sharks are something that always was in my mind. I mean, now I came accustomed to them, but in the beginning of diving was always a fear.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard my episode with Christina Zanato when we talked about Jaws in the 70s. I started diving just when Jaws came out. I was, like you, terrified for about 18 months until I finally figured out, oh, maybe this is bullshit because I haven't been attacked yet. In fact, I've never seen a shark in the water at that point. So I thought, this doesn't make any sense to me, and finally got over it. But it can be a real barrier, can't it, to your diving?
It can. I remember the first times in Egypt that I would jump from the diving boat face down just to make sure that I will see immediately what's under me.
Yeah.
And it didn't work well with doubles to jump facing in the water. It's funny, but then again, I had to get accustomed to all sorts of animals because in Florida, I will prefer to see a shark probably than an alligator in the water. So in reality now, the thing that catch me with cave diving was the beauty of the environment. And this is kind of a cliche. All cave divers say that. All cave students say that we say too much about it when we try to put them into the cave diving direction. But truly for some people, and I'm one of them, probably you are one of them too, the beauty that you see in these spaces is something that cannot be described, and also you cannot recreate it. I mean,
no,
there is nowhere else in the world that me and you have access that we can actually have this experience.
Yeah.
And when you combine it with the weightlessness and, the fact that you're actually flying in three-dimensional environment, like all diving, it's worth all the carrying, it's worth all the restrictions, it's worth all the stress, all the cost, all the sacrifices that you do, because as a diver, you sacrifice a lot often. Yes. Especially free time with friends who don't join you in that. And suddenly you isolate yourself from your friends in a way. But it's worth it.
I've spoken many times about what attracted me to cave diving. And originally I'd seen caves and I'd been inside caves, dry caving at a very basic level. But it was the diving skill set that got me in the beginning, watching Steve Bogarts, Steve Martin, some of those sort of guys, and saying, yeah, I really want to dive like them. And it seemed to me that cave divers had the highest level of diving skill in terms of stability in the water and so on. And I wanted some of that. It was only then when I actually went and did it and thought, whoa, look at the environment here, that I got captured by the rest of it. The other thing about it is the wide variety of different cave environments. Some caves with massive speleotherms and formations, and others not the same. Some of them are really big, some of them are really small. It's just such a variety that you're never bored. And also there's always another turn and something else to find, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The skills, some of these names that you just mentioned, and I would include you in those names, by the way.
Thank you.
When you see these people in the water, it's inspiring because you see them that they're actually belonging to the element. They're not just visiting the element. When you see Steve Bogarts going through the cenotes, you feel that he is belonging to that space. You don't worry if he's going to touch a stalactite or break anything. Not even that, it's just like he floats effortlessly. And this is a very good thing to look up to. So I think cave divers, they actually a very good example for people to better their diving. And you're right, this was also another reason why I wanted to be part of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you focus a lot on cave diving, but also cave instruction. Tell us a bit about your philosophy when it comes to teaching cave diving.
My primary objective in teaching cave diving is safety. And I know, again, this is something that we heard before, etc. But I will give you a different spin on the subject. And the reason why I really insist on safety and on preparatory courses to make sure even that the student is ready for the course, because this is something that often is very overlooked. Instructors who are looking forward to teach as much as they can for financial reasons or others, they will take anybody. And most of our organizations, we will be able to take an advanced open water diver with 20 extra dives and put him into a cave course. This is possible for some really talented individuals. It's not possible for the average diver.
Yes.
I put a lot of effort, and I had students very unhappy when I put them through the process. I told them, we need to make sure that you will not waste your money in paying me a cave diving course, and then on the second day you will quit because you will feel that you're not suitable. Plus the stress and the fact of, it's not shame, but the fact that you will feel that you're not made for it. Let's make sure that you're ready, and there are steps to be done. If you cannot stay still in the water column in all directions, there is no point to try to make a secondary tie in a cave with flow.
Yes.
And it could happen. And when you are finished with your cave diving course, you need to be able to do a lot of things. But the primary thing is to be able to control exactly where you are. Cave diving tells you, and a lot of open water divers don't realize it, because even when you do wreck diving, unless you do penetration, you just swim along.
Yes.
And there is nobody that will understand that you didn't manage to stop by the anchor or by the cannon, because they don't know your intention. But when you're trying to make a tie-off and you pass over the tie-off point because you cannot stop yourself, then everybody sees. But mostly and then it starts to feel bad about it. So I tend to focus on preparatory courses where we make the student ready. And if anything, if he or she doesn't want to continue, at least he will be a better diver at that stage. These are non-certification courses, but are courses that actually brought me a lot of extra students, because the people who did them, then they motivated other friends of them, etc., just to become better divers.
Yes.
More or less. The reason why I was telling you about the safety is because once you're safe and when you're in control, then you not only look like Steve Boggarts, or more or less, you actually manage to do what he does, which basically means go through the cave and enjoy the environment, not worry every time if everything is okay about you. So I tell to the students, become safe divers, that because when you're safe and all your safety has become a routine and an automatic procedure, then you have the environment. And yes, it could be different than yesterday, but more or less the procedures are similar. Enjoy the space. Don't keep worrying about how much gas you have. Am I on thirds or not? Am I supposed to do this extra jump? Am I too deep? You already defined that before. And then when you're in, you just do your plan and enjoy all the unexpected beauty that is there. And it's going to surprise you much more.
So I absolutely love that philosophy. And I know a few others. We used to do that a little bit in Gozo, where we'd have students turn up and do checkout dives. But I love the way that you've bent that concept, or taken that concept and applied it in such a way that you're really saying, hey, listen, here's a preparatory course. This is what you need to do to reach the standard, which is the starting point for a cave diving course. And if you can't reach that standard, here's what you can do to get there. And maybe someone turns up, does the preparatory course, goes away and knocks out 50 dives, practicing what you've taught them, and then they come back and they're ready. It's brilliant.
It's great. And we call them overhead skills because they don't really apply only to cave diving, but basically they prepare you for overhead environments.
Wrecks as well,
I feel that wrecks are very different. But the basic skills are still there. And I tell you, I had all sorts of situations. I had students that the moment you told them that, you need to take another course before, they accused me of wanting to sell another course.
Yes.
Even though the actual cost of this preparatory course is often integrated in the full package. I told them, if you're going to stop and not continue the course, you have to pay for the course. But if you do the full course, it will be like you never paid for it. And you'll be much more happy because you will be able to do the course properly. But most people, like I told you, they're very, very happy. They feel confident. And they are the ones who then become mentors to other students. They stay with me closely as a team. Now we dive together even for fun or recreationally. And we become a community in a way, because they understand that the intention was not greed.
Yes.
Filmmaking is my primary job anyway. It is mostly that I want them to enjoy the caves the way that I do, the way that you do probably. There is a lot of tendency lately for people, at least in Europe, I don't know, in New Zealand or in that part of the world, that a diver who has a cave certification, he feels very, very proud of that, because he feels that that's like the highest level he can reach. But as we all know, certifications don't mean much. They're very easy to obtain.
Yes.
And many people just want that. So these people don't want to go through the stress of doing it right.
And look, if there's any new divers listening to this particular podcast, or people aspiring to cave diving, I think what you're listening to now is some of the most sage advice you can get. The divers that really impress me are the ones that are the most humble and open to learning. And I'll give you an example. My mentor, Tom Steiner, he would take a course every year and you'd go and train with another instructor to learn a new skill. This guy's just outrageously good, and yet he still felt he had more to learn. And some of my own experience, I went over to Mount Gambier earlier this year, and look, I'm a cave diver, but I don't normally get to do a lot of cave diving, which has been a bit of a struggle for me because I really want to. It's quite difficult in this part of the world. So it was a real pleasure to go to Mount Gambier, but we did the advanced cave crossover there with the Cave Diving Association of Australia, which is kind of a necessary prerequisite to be able to dive the caves there. And we had to go and do a stress test. And this test was not simple. We were in a sinkhole, so we went at an overhead, but they laid a line out for us. We had to go in and do a jump into the line, pass through a restriction. On the other side of the restriction, we had an out of gas. Then they took our masks off, went back through the restriction with our masks off. And then at that point, we had to do a skill which I hadn't done before, which was buddy breathing. So we had a double out of gas, and we were buddy breathing, exiting a simulated cave with our masks off. That was just a superb learning experience, number one. It's not supposed to simulate anything necessarily real life, but more it is what it is. It's a stress test to see if under stress you can deal with it. And I enjoyed the experience, and certainly I was good enough to get through it. Then JDZ took us into a tank cave, and away we went, and we'd done the crossover. And so I think being able to take yourself and say, hey, listen, I still have things to learn, and making sure that you're realistic with yourself about the level that you're at. I'm about to go and train with Ed Sorensen. I'm there to learn, and I'm a student. Let's see how much I can learn there. I'm super excited about that opportunity.
And there is some kind of charm to be, again, on the learning part of the dive thing, because it's the moment that you relax, it's the moment that you know that you will end up your diving day with some more wealth, some more knowledge. And this is an exciting thing. This is what I tell them. The moment I start the course, I tell them, okay, get ready to be done with this course and be richer somehow. Yeah, poorer in one way, but, richer.
Richer in diving skill, right?
But, richer in experience and in perspective.
Yes.
And what you say is really good because, and this is especially valid for cave diving, because cave diving maybe didn't evolve much when it comes to equipment or procedures, because these procedures work, with the exception of Sidemount. It's a subject that I'm touching in an article next month somewhere.
Cool.
So I think Sidemount is the part of cave diving that is developing. And the reason why is because we are more open than regular, let's say, traditional back-mounted divers to new things. If I have a new system and I put a video online inside Mount, I'm sure I will receive 20 people of even the highest levels requiring information about that. They're not going to be like, oh, no, that's bullshit. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And this is the most exciting thing about Sidemount, that allows you to not improvise, but, to be part of the evolution. Yeah. And that's why it is going so much faster than traditional diving. So what I was telling you before, and this is especially important for cave diving, because in cave diving, comparing to other kinds of diving, even deep trimix diving, and so it's very important, the learning curve, because the things that you learn in trimix and the emergencies that you go through trimix diving training, there's very big chances that you will never have to face.
Yes.
Equipment works really well. Everything's okay. In cave diving, adjusting is a matter of time that you will have some kind of emergency, and it's very important. I don't feel that being 300 meters or 400 or a kilometer inside the cave is more dangerous than being 90 meters down in the water column. I just feel that you have to be more prepared, because things will happen. Because not just you and your equipment, it could be many, many, many different elements. And like you said, caves are so different. The sea pretty much is similar. You have visibility and currents, and that's it. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. In caves, you have tons of different elements, and caves that sometimes even change from one time of the year to the other. And this is very important as well. So for me, I like to not necessarily to do courses, like you said, every year, but I like to go different places around the world and experience my discipline in places that I haven't experienced before, in extreme weather conditions, etc. And this is kind of like doing a course, because you learn the behavior of your sport into these new conditions. And it's wonderful. It's the same feeling exactly.
Yeah. And look, I want to unpack some of that a little bit later on, which you're talking about going and experiencing different conditions. But let's talk a little bit about, you're a professional photographer and videographer. And I know you do fashion photography, and I saw your fun site as well, which looked just awesome.
Thank you.
Share a little bit about how you combine the two passions of diving, photography, videography. How do you join those two together?
Initially, everybody who, like me, does commercial work, being the fashion work for years, you always have this bug of like, I would like at some point to do something for me, what we call personal projects. The easiest and most standard procedure to find your personal projects is to look into what you really like and say, I'm going to do my job, come closer to what I really like, because this is how my job started eventually. I mean, I still like my job, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
To bring my filmmaking into diving, it was a natural evolution also because of the needs of the diving reality nowadays. Everything is online, everything is filmed, everything is photographed. And to have access both to the knowledge and to the equipment and to the team and to the post-production, it felt almost like a pity that I wouldn't do that. And initially it started very amateurly on a higher level regarding equipment and quality. But, the intention was, let's do something for fun. And it catches up really quickly. We had a major feature film that is finishing around the end of this year, which is going to be a proper movie, if you can say. With a story, and the diving is just part of it. There is another project for next year that I cannot really announce it yet, that is happening, is internationally very, very, very important, and it combines both things. The good thing is that when it comes to diving and photography, I tend to feel again that I go back in time, because nowadays in, let's say, land photography, post-production, Photoshop and even video editing are so good with what they can do that photographers became a little bit unfocused on the situation. They will just shoot something and then their camera has 16 stops. They can do whatever. It doesn't matter. Underwater, it felt a little bit like we used to photograph 20 years ago. Like you had to have the right exposure. You have only a few chances to do it right. And it's less forgiving. So it felt like going back to the craft.
Right.
So it brought me back to...
That was really going to be one of my questions, was the environment is so much different, especially from the point of view of lighting, isn't it?
Yes, especially for the major productions that I do, we use lighting the same way that we use in regular filmmaking, which means the ideal scenario for me, it is two divers that are actually swimming through the environment and at least three divers that are actually swimming with them from a distance, making the illumination of the space.
Right.
This is, of course, the ideal. Not often is like that. And it depends on the space. Some caves don't allow that to happen. In Russia, we managed to do it because the space is very, very big and the results are obvious. But the difference from when you do something like that on land is that you have to have really good communication. And as you know, often underwater, you discuss three things. We need to do three things today. And then after the second, the third, nobody remembers what's the third thing. We tried everything underwater. We tried for the cinematographer to have big white signs with like text written on them, and people will look at it and like, so what, So it was fun. It was fun because it brought us back to a more disciplined and also more humble situation. Like if I go underwater and I get 50% of my planned results, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. So for an absolute amateur like me, and I hope you haven't seen any of my videos now, but I love doing them and I do them a lot. So I do videos of my courses for my students. As much as anything else, I use video as a teaching tool initially for feedback, but then it's great to make a video, and I love making videos of the trips that I do. What would be your main tips for an amateur videographer such as myself?
Like I said a second ago, have a little bit more of a humble target group. Do not overload things. I had productions that they will tell me, okay, in this cave, we can stay only for one dive. I'm like, okay, we might get something, we might get little, we might get nothing. Are you prepared for that? Like, what do you mean you're a professional? I'm like, no, I am. But, this is the cave. It's not me filming an interview in a studio that, it will be my mistake if the results don't come up.
Right.
This is being underwater, and it could be 1,000 things. If I have bad visibility, it's almost not worth it. So for an amateur, I will feel like keep focusing on the primary reason of why you're doing the trip, which is diving and having fun, and make sure that you don't over-focus on reporting that. Even if it's for personal use, people sometimes over-focus on like, okay, I need to make video at any cost. Apart that it can be dangerous, especially if you, I'm not saying alone, but if you are like two people over-focusing on filming into a new cave,
Well, that was actually going to be my next question as well, because I know you spoke about this at Eurotech last year, this balancing efficiency and safety in cave diving production. And I know from some conversations I've had with Natalie Gibb in Yucatan, Mexico, there's a really big connection between cameras and a lot of the dive accidents that have happened there recently. What are some of your thoughts about that, about safety during film work and safety for an amateur as well, especially with cameras?
My position is that the filmmaker, he should never be the dive leader.
Right.
And the reason why is because you could know the cave relatively well. And if you are focusing into making video or making a film, etc., you will not be able to pay attention to, yes, of course, you will pay attention to your equipment. You're a professional diver but it's different. The big mistake that a lot of people do is that they say, okay, we're going to visit this new cave or this cave for the first time. Maybe we don't go again. Let's make a film in there. Or let's make a video with a GoPro. Doesn't matter. You enter into the cave. You are focusing into your footage. At some point, the battery is finished. Okay, so let's go back. And you look back and you have a new environment you've never seen before, because the environment that you see through the lens is not what is the reality. So it's unrecognizable.
Yes.
You were focusing on your friend that was diving, maybe on his skills, maybe on his cylinder that was a little bit lower than it should be. And you missed a very important element of the natural space of the cave that will show you familiarity with that. I have been in the very, very early joining of my diving and my filmmaking in situations that I actually, for a little period of time, got lost into a cave. And then I've said, I will never again film a cave that I've never seen before.
Right.
I will know the cave very well, and then I will decide to film it, or I will have the team with me that I trust completely, that they will be my eyes while I'm filming. This, of course, it has to do with filming for a reason. So when you do it for a film or for a production or for a client or anything like that, when you go for fun, I will suggest that you will not decide to film the whole extension of the dive, Be aware of the environment, come out again, refilm it coming in, but, do not experience going into the cave through the camera, because you're not going to recognize it coming back.
Sure.
Okay, there is a line and there is markers, but nobody would want to be at the end of the cave, placed there, and then being told just go back from that point. But this is what happens when you film, because you focus through the lens.
Yes. Good advice.
It's complicated, and it comes with a high price, because people don't need to have accidents, like you said, with the things happening in Mexico or anything. But even to be scared in this place, it can turn you off, or it can make you have a bad day, and it's not worth it, because these places are beautiful. We love them. And cave diving has become an incredibly safe sport, exactly because it's so unforgiving. But let's not make it to the point that we now divert our attention through these cameras. That's for you. When you will go to your next trip, do your diving and film whatever you can of it. But, make sure you do your diving. It's like people going on vacation and taking too many selfies. Then they focus on the quality of the selfie, more on the experience.
Yeah, or the location.
Exactly.
That's very good advice there. Let's wind back to Sidemount a little bit. You talked about, I know on Facebook, I think I read a passage of Sidemount making diving fun for you again. What did you mean by that?
By the way, I got a lot of trash for that post. I don't understand. Yes, I got accused that I am one more instructor that is trying to sell courses through romanticizing some part of diving. And, and this is especially true of side mount instructors. I'm not even a side mount instructor myself. So I'm like, do your studies at least, make sure that you understand who you talk to in a way. No, for me, side mount was something that I flirted with it from the very beginning of technical diving, because I was struggling a lot with things like valve drills.
Yes.
So as a young technical diver, I was always feeling like, no, this is not possible. I cannot be stressed about it. I catched myself avoiding practicing that skill, because it was just reminding me that I couldn't do it the way that I wanted to do it. And, you see all these other divers that, maybe they are much bigger than you, maybe less fit than you, but somehow they reach and they do it so comfortably, and it felt very bad. So initially I thought, like, I want to do side mount because then I will solve this problem. And when I finally got into that, which is not an incredible long time ago, by the way, it's not the biggest part of my diving, I started feeling that it was really fun again, because it has so many benefits on so many levels. It brought me back to recreational diving in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
Because when we were all diving recreationally in the beginning, if you remember those days, you were going to the diving center, they were giving you a BCD, it's medium, okay, no, it's medium, large is fine, you're putting it on, going in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about being in the water. Once you go up the levels and you become a technical diver and an instructor, etc., then things start to get more rigid, both physically through a backplate and also with the mentality. And this is good because then you become safer and then all the things that we said. Going to Sidemount diving, it brought back some of this lightness again to me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me feel like entrance in the water from a boat was so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Exit was so much easier.
Yeah.
I could dive with my wife. I could carry her 2 cylinders to the water and then carry my 2 cylinders in the water.
Mm-hmm.
It would take me more time, but it was not exhausting. The flexibility you have in your back, but the whole thing that made it fun again, it was what I said in the beginning of our conversation, which if I find a way to make my rig a little better, it was legitimate. It was not anti-procedure. It was not anathema.
You're not breaking DIR or anything like that.
No, I'm not. And believe me, I've been through the DIR mentality for a long time and I got a lot of positive stuff out of that. But it allowed me to be more inventive. I could adjust my own cylinder distances, etc. It became more, it's hard to explain, it just became more fun. Apart from that, in the water, the sensation for whoever, and I don't think there's many people who've never tried it and listen to your post, most probably they have some experience. But if somebody has not tried it, the feeling is, it's a revelation. I had people who gave up on diving slowly because they just couldn't deal with it anymore. It was too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I managed to put them in the water in Sidemount, they just became like kids again. They're like, okay, no, like that, I'll do it. Let's go diving. And this is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Very, very good.
What is your take on that?
Well, I tend to agree. And for me, I just enjoy everything that it brings. I enjoy the redundancy. I enjoy the fact I can manage my cylinders individually. I enjoy the fact that, yes, it's easy to get in the water, but I've got so much flexibility in how I do that. I can dine on the boat. I can dine on the water. I can take my cylinders to the shore or to the entrance to a cenote, cave, whatever. And then I've got options as to how I do that as well. And then the other thing that I've been able to perfect, I think, for myself is the way my equipment fits me, which is so important. When I put my cylinders on, they're locked in, they don't move, they're stuck to my sides. I know how to trim them, yes, but I don't have this feeling of fighting my equipment. And that takes some time in Sidemount. One thing I would say is you do need to get good instruction. You do need to spend a bit of time figuring out how your equipment's going to fit. You're getting your harness and BCD system set up properly, because you can do it wrong and then things don't work too well. I had a good example on a course I taught just a couple of weeks ago. One of my students, they were fantastic divers, 100 meter CCR divers. And, they were humble enough to come and do some training with me, which I thought was great. And one of them wants to go into cave diving. The other one is one of his good friends. And he came along because he might want to open circuit Sidemount dive sometime on some trips he does. But one of them had a bad day. And it was all about the fact that his cylinders weren't correct. And we got some video of it and we fixed it for the next day. And so the contrast for him was amazing. So it is worthwhile spending time on that. But once you've got it locked in, you do get that feeling that you're talking about of being one with your equipment. And then once you're one with your equipment, you can be one with the water. Makes it easy to get stable. So that's my perspective, is spend a bit of time on that. And I am often tweaking my gear, a little bit like you, finding little new adjustments I can make to make it a little bit better. Sometimes I'll find a piece of equipment that Andy Goring's come up with at some UK, and I'm wondering how I might put that on my gear and see if that might help. I think that's it for me, and the stability and any orientation. I love wreck diving, and I love being able to comfortably pass through doors and wrecks by turning on my side, which is not a hard skill in Sidemount, but it's not trivial either. So learning how to do that and then being able to be comfortable in any orientation as well is fantastic.
It is, and like you said, you become one with the element and one with your equipment, and then you become one with the element. It's amazing how backmount has been not paying attention to that, especially with stay cylinders. I saw your beautiful podcast here with Marissa, and this is absolutely the key. I mean, for me, when I saw it, I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, never realized what, but when you have two things that maybe they're completely different, but you can bring elements from one discipline to another, you should do it. And it's incredible what high levels of backmount diving you see cylinders hitting the roof of the cave because they're completely vertical.
Yeah.
And we're talking about incredibly experienced divers that all they need to do is like, look at me, just do the same. I also have an aluminum cylinder with 40 bars inside, and it's completely horizontal.
You've streamlined all your stages, deco cylinders?
Well, the truth is that in 2019, I have not dived back mount yet. Because when we're finishing this film that I told you end of this year is a back mount project, I will definitely do that. And I'm working on it because I think there is only benefits from that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about that. I find so much resistance to it from some of the people I talk to. It just seems as if it's always the way they've done it. And as a group, they seem reluctant to change. And yet, as you say, you talk to James Draker and Marissa and those sort of people and Tom Steiner, and there's name after name of, look, let's be frank, they're really good side mount divers who also dive back mount. And as you say, all they're doing is combining the two disciplines together to make their gear more optimal.
Absolutely. And I think the big resistance comes from the fact that traditional back mount diving, it will not accept something like a sliding ring. It just comes to this because this is what you need. I had people, okay, I don't need a sliding ring. I can just put it on my crotch strap. I'm like, it's not the same.
No.
And you cannot really put multiple cylinders in your crotch strap either. You know, it's why do that? With having a sliding ring, you can put multiple cylinders on your back ring and the way that we do on side mount, etc.
Yes.
Why do that? They have resistance because this is how it's been taught for many, many years, and it works. So this is always what they come back to you. It works until they try once to go side mount and realize that with one fin kick, they can go 3 times the distance.
Exactly.
Magic.
The thing, I'm an engineer as well, and so I understand a little bit about hydrodynamics. Look, I just go back to what I've said many times about watching an Olympic swimmer. They spend so much time training, and yet they're training for fitness and power, but they're training more around technique for streamlining because streamlining is more important than additional power. Look at a seal, look at a dolphin. So anything that has to chase anything else has to go fast and they're super streamlined. We should be as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Completely. Just to close the subject on my side at least, the big enemy of a technical diver who does back mount is that at some point quickly, he gets to the point that he's using a scooter. And then all the problems are solved.
Yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes even buoyancy problems are solved.
Yes.
The whole thing is solved having a scooter, which is both dangerous and is not the way. You see people with like 6 tanks on them completely overloaded. Some of them are horizontal because they are heavier. In oxygen, some of them are like flying already from the beginning of the dive because maybe they are like lighter tanks, they're bottom gases or anything, and they have the scooter and they move and it's okay.
Yeah.
But it cannot be comfortable.
Yeah. No,
it's painful to watch.
Yeah, I remember talking to Ed about that as well, about cave DPV, about, he makes you stop in the water and look at your trim and your buoyancy and see if you've got it right. Agree 100%. I remember James talking about that as well, about where he's locating cylinders based on the amount of helium or the gases inside them and how heavy or light they're going to be. Really important to do that too.
Absolutely. But anyway, overall, I think side mount is, for me, it's the only way that I will be diving from now on. There is no way. Once this project with back mount is done, I might be radical, but I will probably sell all my stuff and go to full side mount.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing that. I guess that's good to hear from my point of view. Now, look, you're the founder of Into the Wild Adventures. Tell us a little bit about that and what you guys do there.
My main goal was to show that Greece has the ability to be a destination for cave divers, especially European cave divers that maybe they don't have the time to go to Mexico this year, or they just want to see a different place. Greece offers a variety of different type of caves. Not all of them are nearby, one to another, but trips can be organized in ways that the person can see a sea cave and a spring maybe in the same trip. And this is not often the case of something that you can do anywhere else in the world eventually. I'm talking about a spring like the lot in France, and then at the same time a sea cave that resembles the Mexican caves and the cenotes and things like that. So because Greece was not offering the ability for Germans or North Europeans to just take a van with all their equipment and drive down, as it requires then the extra passage maybe through boat from Italy, and it was raising the cost. It was kind of overlooked. And we have a very, very strong dry caving community in Greece. We have a lot of dry caves. Some of them are unique in the world as well. But the diving part of caves was very, very overlooked. with very few exceptions. There's not been any major projects here, and people were like, okay, I didn't even know. When I was presenting the Greek caves for the first time in European conferences, people will come to me and tell me, I didn't even know there were caves there. Like, guys, there's caves everywhere in the world, first of all, but
yes,
we have many too. Because I'm half Greek, half Italian, I wanted to combine the Greek caves with the Italian mountains into the possibility for people to do what I call recreational adventures or recreational expedition sensations. So maybe get somebody who wants to have the thrill of an adventure, both in mountaineering and in cave diving, and we can take him in the summer months doing the Alps in Italy, and then in the winter we can do, or in the spring and fall we can do the caves of Greece, which also do not really get affected from rain or from weather conditions. We can dive them all year. And at some point, I thought, okay, how can I do that? I need to have a platform. I need to have something that it's not just word of mouth. So we came up with the idea. We came out with this company, and this is what we're doing now.
Yep.
It's in its very beginning phase, and it combines, like I told you, the mountaineering experience.
I have to say, I had a look at the website this afternoon in preparation for you and I talking, and I ended up downloading one of your brochures. It just looked brilliant. I love the way you combined a lot of things together too. So it looked like you had some really nice accommodation options. Am I right that the Infinite Liquids project is done under Into the Wild Adventures?
Yes. The Infinite Liquid was a project that was basically between me and a few other friends and instructors. We decided to present again these Greek caves, specifically with the side mount configuration, because side mount is not very developed in Greece. Not a lot of people. Actually, it's extremely rare to find it in Greece at this point. And a lot of caves have not been terminated exactly due to this issue.
Right.
So we felt, let's go to the usual caves that, people go, or we have been before. Let's try to go with side mount and see if we can push them any further. In the film, you will see some of this effort. It was just the first trip in a way. So we wanted to show that there is this possibility. And this was the project that is going to come out next summer. We will present the full feature film in Tech Dive in Orlando.
Yes.
And we're very proud and happy about that. This is a good stage to present it, and it's going to be a good crowd for it. Infinite Liquid was, for us, a sense to explain that, I believe that there is continuation in these places. Many, many Greek caves are not fully explored for many reasons. Some of them go very deep. Some of them just people cannot be bothered. I am sure there is even shallow exploration to be done. We feel that the liquid that goes to them is maybe not infinite, but there's still to go.
Sounds amazing. And this was the one I saw where you had the yellow X-Deep Stealth 2.0.
Yes, they are the primary sponsor of the project. They married it straight from the beginning, and we're very thankful for that, both for their excitement and for the product itself, which I think is an amazing product.
No doubt. And Matteo was involved as well, Matteo Verana?
Yes, he was. I've heard your podcast with him.
Yeah, that was some time ago now, actually, but 10 episodes ago or so, and episode 27, I think he was in, but I haven't met him personally either, but I really enjoyed catching up. We have many friends in common. I'll be in Italy after I get out of Florida. We're going to Sardinia, but I won't get a chance to catch up with him this time. I should try and combine a trip to Italy and Greece sometime, and see if
Absolutely.
I can.
Absolutely. You're always welcome to come and see this part of the world in a way. Yeah, Matteo is our official in-water photographer for the project. So all the photography that will be coming along through teasers or, announcements, etc., or even the presentation itself, most of it belongs to Matteo.
Yeah, he's very good, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, listen, we've gone for an hour and I have thoroughly enjoyed catching up with you and meeting you for the first time, hearing more about your projects, and a little bit like some of the other, let's call us ignorant people, about the diving in Greece and caves in Greece. It was really exciting to hear about that, and yet another destination to add to the list. Greece is obviously a great attraction for us coming from the Southern Hemisphere as well. So knowing that there's super quality diving and people we can go with, I think is exciting for me to hear about, that's for sure. So thank you very much. Great to meet you, and I hope that we can catch up at a conference somewhere.
Absolutely. Thank you very much too. Thank you for all your contribution that you do to the side dive community and everything, and I hope to see you even better. Why not dive with you one day?
Oh, for sure. Well, let's make that happen. We're now connected, and now that we've spoken, we're friends, huh? So let's see if we can make that happen sometime in the future. Thanks very much, Stratis.
You're my guest anytime. Thank you so much.
Hey, I really hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. It was really great to catch up with Stratis and learn more about cave diving in Greece and also about photography and videography underwater. Now, just a couple of reminders. If you want to learn more about the fundamentals of Sidemount diving, my ebook, Sidemount Fundamentals, is available through my website, www.sidemountpros.com, in the store. And also the bucket list trip, Truck 2020, is on. If you want to know more about that, check out sidemountpros.com under the calendar. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. You've been listening to Speaking Sidemount from www.sidemountpros.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and consider leaving us a 5-star review. If there's something you'd like us to cover on the show, then let us know via our Facebook page listed in the podcast notes. Thanks again, and we look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Speaking Sidemount.